Hey everyone, this is Rick. I have a story for you today that is not very comic booky at all and has nothing to do with restoring or cleaning or pressing comic books. So if that's what you came for today, then you will probably want to skip this video. But it's an interesting story. For me, it's a life-changing story. And in general, it's part of a larger biography that I'm sort of recording for myself in different countries and different places around the world, and little vignettes about my life through this comic book lens that I want to save for my posterity. And this is definitely not to be missed. Part of this video will be on that, but it's not going to be, you're not going to learn any cleaning or pressing here. But the gist of the story is that several months ago I found out that I have a new brother, and my new brother that I never knew about before lives near me and has into Spider-Man and comic books, and he has a comic book YouTube channel as well. His name's Paul Herman. It's called The Comic Book Binge. I'll put a link in the description below. This is a video that I recorded and I'm sharing with my two of my three new brothers' permission. Edited clip of some part of the meeting when we first met each other for the first time, which was just the other day. So I hope you enjoy the video. Take care and peace out. And by the way, you are all my brothers too. So take care. Bye-bye. Several months ago, I discovered that who I thought was my dad was not my real dad, one that died when I was younger. And despite being born in California and living most of my life in Oregon, living in Washington now, it ends up that I don't live far from my real father. Contacted him recently, met him about 4 weeks ago in person. That was a real mind bender. I discovered that I have three half-brothers I've never met before. I talked to them last week. I'm about to meet them in a few minutes for the first time. Another additional mind bender is that they are exactly like me. My cousins are also much like me. And additionally, one of my brothers, he has a Spider-Man YouTube, or a comic book YouTube channel. He likes Spider-Man quite a bit. So that's a big deal, and I'm about to meet them for the first time in just a few minutes. So my two brothers, Derek and Paul, have just let me know that they've parked nearby, and they're going to join me here in a few moments. We'll meet them together in a few moments, I hope. So I think they're coming now. I'm hoping it could be any minute now. And we'll see together. If they're coming. We'll see. Wow. What a strange experience.
I know.
This is,
after texting for a while.
well, it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. And then also a couple hugs. How's that sound?
That sounds good.
That sounds good. That sounds good.
Yeah.
What's up, man?
Wow.
It's pretty crazy.
Yeah. It's I have to set this up. It's been filming me for a little bit. So
Right,
say hello. It's good to meet you both.
Yeah. It's pretty crazy. It's pretty nuts.
My sons both said it would be very interesting if they hadn't got to meet each other for half a century. You know,
What an interesting
That's a good point.
they said, how would we be if we didn't? You know, how close? What things would we have missed out on if we hadn't met each other for 50 years?
But that was a fascinating conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How'd they take it?
They were both sort of. They didn't know how to process it. They didn't know what it meant. They didn't have a construct for the person you call your dad not being your real dad.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So they didn't know what to say or do about it at first. But then they said, does this mean that that's our
that our grandfather? They're like putting the math together, you know? And I'm like,
that's a good point. Yeah, that's what it means.
I'm like, yeah. And they said, well, so are your brothers then like my uncles? They're like
Yeah.
making that, they're mapping that out, you
That's
know? And I
cool.
think that their Christmas list started increasing in size.
They'll be sadly disappointed. You know, I hope you like Hot Wheels cars. And I hope you like one at a time, right? Here you go. No, it's I hear you. It's crazy, man. Like when Dad told us last week, it was not something I was expecting, to say the least.
Sure.
It was.
Well, how did that happen? He told me he was going to get you at his house, I think he said, or something.
Well,
Is that-
he wanted us to meet at a park, which was the first weird thing.
You're probably wondering what happened.
Well, he's
It's not weird for him though.
Well, yeah, that's true. That is a unique animal. That's just for sure. No, it was. He said, he's gonna find. I'm gonna tell you something that's gonna change your life, change mine. I'm like,
Wow.
I thought he was.
That's heavy, right?
Well, yeah, and like he said, everything's fine, we're healthy and everything. And I said, well,
Hold on, before
Yeah,
you.
yeah.
So,
he texted you first, right?
yeah. Well, he called me.
You
and-
that's right. You texted. You're like, hey, yeah, go ahead. do
And
this
there's
thing.
So he reached out, called, and I wasn't able to get it right away. I called him back, and he said the same thing. It was very strange and surreal. I want to meet with you. I don't want to say, or I have some news. It's going to change your life,
Wow.
and change our lives. But I don't want to say it over the phone. And I'm like, shit, just say it over the phone. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah,
How do you then relax
know, I
after
know.
that?
No, that's what I
That's
said.
like-
It is
like-
2 weeks away. I was like, what are you doing? And so, yeah, and I remember.
what did he? Like, what did he say? Because we were trying to figure it out
He's-
based on what he said.
Well, it was pretty much verbatim almost what he told me at first. Yeah, what he told me and what he told you. And so I like, Dad, I asked him straight up. I'm like, Dad, are you like everything okay? I'm fine, everyone's healthy.
he said he was
Me and your
healthy.
mom are fine. I'm like, okay, that's strange.
So then what, right?
Then he started going off about like he felt bad about my friends from like 20 years ago that visited from Illinois or from Minnesota.
That's right, he did mention
And,
that.
and then it was like I felt like a real jerk when I didn't help them out as much. I'm like, this is really weird, very, very random. It just came out of nowhere. It was very, very sweet too. But I was like, oh, you're good, Dad. I was like, that's right. And I told Derek, he thought that he found God or something like that. Like,
Yeah.
like
That was Paul's
I was
guess.
because I'm like, why would he not like want to? It's the only thing I could think
There's
of.
this guy named Jim Jones. I'm going to go to his
Yeah,
camp.
right. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Good buddies.
Yeah.
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 So he told me. So he didn't tell me. I didn't press him either.
So my guess, really quick. So
Yeah, go ahead.
I don't want you to like. Cause
No, yeah, you're good.
So I was like, I don't know. That's
You weren't sold
I
on
was
that.
like, so yeah, we met at a park, Forest Park in Everett. Yeah, so we met there, and Paul and I were like talking to each other, like texting back and forth, like, okay, are you here? I'm here. Let's.
Did you get the same message I got, kind of thing? Yeah. Like,
Yeah.
right,
Yeah, oh yeah,
We
yeah,
talked
yeah,
about it for a week,
yeah,
the whole 2
we
weeks.
totally were like we're just brainstorming like what the hell because we met the day before and we're like, or the couple days before we're like, I don't care, whatever. We took it. We didn't like. I mean, I was taking it seriously because I told that I would do it, but I wasn't like putting much like into it, if that makes any sense. Like I just didn't know what was gonna happen. So I'm like, all right, whatever, we'll find out. Kind of a thing.
I think Paul and I are like I'm closer to Paul than I am with anybody else in the family.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And even in a lot of friendships, I'm closer to Paul than that. So we talk a lot about, especially about family stuff, and we've helped each other kind of process a lot of
Yeah.
stuff through the years, and even this, like
Yeah.
so. And I think it makes me wonder like what this relationship could be,
Yeah.
knowing how close Paul and I are. Like,
Yeah.
and obviously, don't want to rush anything, don't want to make anything that it isn't. But I think it's a really special relationship, knowing the kind of relationship I have with Paul.
But yeah, no, it's important, but it's also important because like you're a part of us, and so I wanted to know the person that's a part of us, and what that could be, like Derek said. So it's really exciting, and when Dad sat us down and
Yeah,
told
go
us,
ahead and pick it up a little bit.
and then Dad like told the story of Jeff. I was like, where is this going?
Yeah, you
Because
started
I thought like we found
this
that we have.
meandering.
Yeah, we found a rich relative, and everyone doesn't have to work anymore. I was like, oh, sweet, dude. Like,
Yeah.
that'd be rad, something like that. I was just thinking in my head like, okay, where's this going? Like I almost thought like not a pyramid scheme, but like what kind of?
I know, I
yeah,
thought that
I
too.
was like, okay, what are we getting sucked into now?
This company called Amway.
And crypto and all this, you know.
Yeah,
I'm like,
yeah.
I was like, oh, here we go.
Crypto's the future of money.
Yeah, exactly. You know, and so.
Recruit some friends.
Yeah. Pyramids, everything, pyramid company. No, but like, yeah. And when he started saying how they found this guy, Rick Morgan, and he said like, you know, and basically you have a brother, and I was just like, my mouth hit the floor. I'll be honest.
I can't imagine.
My mouth just went, and we were excited. Like we were really excited, and you know, because obviously the situation is like completely. We're isolated completely from everything, so we have no idea like what's, you know, what anything is at that point. And so it was just like, what, you know. And so Dad explained the story, and I was like, wow. And you know, and we're excited, and the fact, and all the weird instances of like, you know, of the what's what I'm looking for, weird coincidence. Yeah, I can think of the word coincidences. Like the fact you live in Washington, which is the weirdest thing. Like you live like right by us, which
Right.
is super strange. The fact that like you share a passion of mine that like is still unfortunately still like a passion that people don't really usually share. The same character, which is super hilarious. You know, for me, and so I was like, wow. And so it just all those things put together was just like, this is weird. And like we've talked about before, it's obviously we're meant to like meet up and talk. And so like, and what, you know, so it's just like, it was meant to be, obviously, in every sense of the word. So it's just like, yeah, it's just, so it was exciting to know like that was going to, you know, it's exciting, but it's also weird. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, it's fucking weird. I mean, but it's
In a great way. though.
yeah, it's not in a
like
bad
you
way.
said,
Yeah, weird's not a bad thing. It's just what it is. It's just not usual by any means. So
Although it is interesting, you know, you see and you hear this happening more often with Ancestry.com and 23andMe and those kinds of situations, because, you know, what potentially could have been hidden, whether intentionally or inadvertently in the past, kind of comes out in some of these cases now.
I hired a forensic genealogist when I found out,
Really?
and I had her do it. She's a private investigator who
Yeah.
sure, yeah.
maps DNA, and she knows how to. She has you download the actual code of your DNA test results, and I did it at a couple different places to find out, because I think for our dad and even for you guys, you just sort of nothing really changes. You just added somebody and some information, but for me, my whole identity was turned upside down.
No,
I
for
can't
sure.
even
Yeah, I
imagine.
can't.
Right,
Yeah,
like-
no kidding, man.
Like, and so it was. So that I then immediately wanted to find out about the person I called my dad, right?
Yeah.
Like, who is this person, right? And this is, as the coincidences get weirder. The lady I happened to call, I went to Ancestry.com, and they have contacts that you can reach out to help you. And I said, look, I need a professional. This isn't a guy surfing on Google type of thing. I need to go like. Plus, I just needed to be a degree separated from it. Like it just.
Yeah, like
lets
now
us-
they talk
Yeah.
to Jeff and like all that. They actually have like, okay, take the Hermans out of
Well,
it.
probably time was a factor too.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, my head was spinning up, as you might imagine, right?
Yeah, yeah, I
and
didn't
so.
think about that. Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, I just need to have someone do
And
this.
when was this about?
This was December 23rd or 22nd. Like, so I found out on the 20th. It was the day after my son's Nolan's birthday, I remember, that Jeff contacted me. And they were actually, he was with his brother Greg, because his brother Greg happens to have the same birthday as my son. They're both also doing a
crazy.
celebration and birthday. They were in Florida, and he was trying to piece things together, and he just decided to call me. And then, so
Jeff.
right after that, and we were actually wearing the same sweater when he called me. We
I
FaceTimed.
remember the
Westerly
one
one from
from, yeah,
Big Lebowski.
Yeah.
we were wearing the same sweater. We were like, what the, that was odd. We both stopped and sort of
hilarious.
absorbed that for a moment. Not an easy to get sweater. It's like $300, so it's like, it's really just a weird deal.
We do
So-
not own that sweater.
I love the Big Lebowski. I mean, it runs the family. I love that movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's amazing.
So I contacted her and I said, hey, help, right?
Yeah.
And she said, oh, are you Richard Morgan, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, what? How did she know me? She said, I helped your dad's, Jim Morgan, not my real dad's, sister Jackie find him like 7 or 8 years ago. Like she actually worked on another part of my family tree for someone else independent of me
Oh my goodness.
in the past, and had already stitched a lot of this together, like by
Wow.
pure coincidence. Yeah, so I know your brain can't really absorb it all,
That's
right?
super weird.
Right, and then she helped me put some things together and some timelines, and then, well, from my perspective, Jeff may have told you the same thing. He called me and said, hey, we're related. Like, great, because there's like 700 people in my thing, like 0.1%,
right.
awesome. It's like, and he called me like 9 or 10 at night. It was like late at night and later for him because he was in Florida at the time.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking like,
Had he been drinking?
I don't know, probably.
He probably, he probably had a few beers.
But he had like,
I love you, Joe.
he had been cyber stalking me for a few weeks because he got some kind of Black Friday DNA kit, and his wife
Yeah.
said, hey, I think you might be related to this guy. He says, nah, it's a mistake. Don't know him, don't know anything.
He told us that story.
Oh yeah, and he said, "Well, take a look at this picture. Looks exactly like your brother." And he's like, "Okay, well, we're related somehow." So and so he had a little bit of time to digest it. Decided to call me, and then text me at first, and then he called me and he said, "Hey, blah 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 blah." And he goes, "I said I don't know what this thing. Let's talk about it in the future or something. We'll just get together."
Yeah.
And he said, "No, I want." And he tried, and then he slowed down in the way he said this, like very deliberately and cautiously. He said, "Are you alone or with other people right now?" So he could sense like something big was going to happen. And I was like, "Dramatic much?" So I was like, "Okay, but whatever."
Yeah.
And he said, "I think one of my uncles is your father." That's what he said directly to me.
How did he? I don't remember how he came to that conclusion.
He talked to he talked to you before he talked. Sorry, he talked to his dad, and then I think did he ask you your mom's name?
Yes.
Okay, that's why.
Okay.
I remember
So he had talked to you before, so this wasn't out of the.
We had chatted before, and then he called me.
Okay.
He called me. He chatted like a few hours earlier. Then he called me later the same
And
evening.
then that's when he said his dad was freaking out, thinking it might be him.
And the house funny.
Yeah.
Hans was like, oh my god, and like how Hans kept like shuffling his feet for months because he didn't want to tell dad, like that there's a whatever, right? It was just like what?
So I called my aunt, Robin, in Oregon, and I said, "Hey, Whiskey Tango Foxtrot, what's going on here with all this stuff?" And then she said, "Do you know anybody? There's this story, right?" And she goes, "Well, what's this guy's name?" And I said, "His name is Jeff Herman." She said, "Oh, well, from like July to like September of 1970." And I said, "Well, I was born May 1st. My mom probably got pregnant with me September 1st of 1970, like the week before she went back to school because she was a teenager still."
Yeah.
And then things sort of fell into place for me after that. Because I'd never heard these names before in my life, right? I had no idea who anybody was. At first I was like, that's super weird and don't really believe it, because it's hard to process and digest,
Can't even
And
imagine.
then suddenly things lined up. And then my aunt told me, she's like, "Oh yeah, we used to hang out with this guy and he used to at our house and stuff." And so he called our mom, and he was there all the time, and he had this 59 Chevy car, and he drove around it and
I remember
stuff.
pictures of that car.
And so she told me all these stories, and I was like, huh, okay, this might be real.
Did you talk?
And so and Jeff was getting impatient, and he said, "Look, I'm about to tell Paul." So first of all, I was already following you.
Which I still don't believe. I can't. No offense, but like I'm just like I can't believe that you followed me before. That's insane to me.
Because I didn't even know. Jeff sent me an Instagram or Facebook, or not Facebook, but either a YouTube picture or something. He said, "Immaculate." He said, "Is this you?" And I said, "Yeah." He goes, "That's your brother," he said. I was like, "Are you serious?"
Dude.
Because I was like, I clearly had no idea.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I saw a picture of you once with an amazing fantasy
Picture. Yeah.
somewhere in
it's in my office.
So I liked it and I followed and watched your video. I think I made a few comments or something.
You
at some
did.
point.
You did. Yeah,
And so I was like, no fucking way. There's
Yeah.
no way. Like
Yeah.
this is no
Dude,
way.
And, when Dad started telling me that he works on restoring comic books, I went. I remember you were commenting. I'm like, oh, this guy likes Spider-Man a lot, right? Like, and I remember seeing like, oh, you work on restoring comic books, and when Dad said that, I went, no way. And I said, was he in Ethiopia recently? Because I saw your video in Ethiopia, and he was like, yeah, I think so. I was like, first I'm like, I told Derek, I'm like, he has some balls to follow me and not tell me, like, I mean, like, I was just like, what the? That makes more sense now because like, because I didn't believe. I'm like, there's no way he followed me and didn't know. But even Jeff's like, no, I said, tell me, Jeff, confirm that. He's like, no, and I was like,
He told me I was following.
yeah,
you.
that's what I'm saying. And he was like, no. When I talked to him and told him everything was, we went to kind of figure everything out. He was already. I had to show.
Kind of helped us.
He helped.
piece
I was
some things
like,
in our own minds.
I still couldn't process. I'm like, there's no way. There's no way. It's that's
Right.
insane.
It's too big of a. Well, and that's what sort of Hans was saying. He goes, well, I'll finish that
Yeah,
part of the story.
sorry.
Then he'll get there. So he said, I would like to meet you first in person, you and me together. I can go to Washington. You can come down here.
Yeah.
But your Aunt Linda was on board right away. She's like,
Linda.
you need to call me Aunt Linda. And stuff like she was like on board immediately.
Yeah,
Everybody else was like cautious. She was like, come on in and give it a hug.
Aunt Linda and Jeff are fan. I mean, Han's awesome too, obviously. But I mean, yeah, Aunt Linda's super sweet and nice and everything. Yeah, she's awesome.
So he was very cautious, and he said to me, all right, will you happen to be in Texas on May 20th to 23rd? I can be.
I can't be.
And he said, good. Meet me at the Dairy Queen in
Good.
Flatonia, Texas at 1:00 p.m. on Saturday the 20th.
Just like Uncle Hans.
And I was like, are we going to kill somebody? Or like, what are we doing? And Flatonia has like 500 people in it. It is like, the Dairy Queen's like the only place to eat there.
Oh my God.
He goes, I'm going to take and grab your Uncle Roland, who he said incidentally is very grouchy, and I want to meet you and talk to you. And he didn't say anything about why or what first, but then we met and I had lunch with them and it was great. And he goes, and Roland, we got along famously. He was not grumpy at all. We were very,
fine.
and he said, okay, he sat down, he said, I should tell you, we are very clearly related. Imagine somebody shows up in your life and says, oh, I'm related to you and your family and your brother. I happen to live right by him. I happen to like the same things you do. I happen to all these things happen to be a big coincidence.
That's true.
It's a little fishy.
No, I mean that's what I mean. It is like I mean like yeah. I mean you have to. That's why we said you have to be cautious because you don't really know what's going on, right? Like
It's almost too unreal to believe.
It's a level of coincidence that defies
everything.
expectation,
Yeah,
right?
no,
like
exactly.
you can't.
Wow, it's crazy.
Yeah. And so then he joined. Then he got a DNA test, and he said, yeah, okay, well I'm your uncle, right? And then we had Casey, and then he joined Ancestry.com and started putting stuff together, sending me photos, and we've been talking. And then I got a ping on Ancestry.com just a couple days later from Casey. It said, would you like to join me on Ancestry.com? And I denied it because I was under like a severe lockdown, like don't share with anybody.
Wow.
Well,
He didn't say anything about it.
Yeah.
Well, remember, didn't he say he goes, "Who's Rick Morgan?"
Well, and that's so we were watching the Seahawk game
Last week. It was last week.
Yeah, it was last week. Yeah.
I was on vacation.
Yeah, it was last. Not this. It was a
Vacation.
week prior to Thursday, and we were just he was up at my place up north, and Casey got home. I think was he mountain biking that day, I think, or something like that.
I don't know.
Yeah, I think they were doing Stevens Pass or something. So he comes home and we were just chatting, and he had pulled out his Ancestry.com thing and he was talking about all.
I know. I was like, okay, cool. I
Yeah,
did
Paul's
not.
on his phone,
I
like, zoning
couldn't
out.
care. I was like, I could not care
Casey's
less.
going like, oh yeah, I got like, it's updating all my like DNA like results and everything, like like what ethnicity and all this, and probably because everybody starts going into the DNA and doing the test. And he's like reading off. He's like, yeah, my German percentage went way up, and he's like, and I'm into it. I'm like, oh, cool, and he was like, yeah, and it shows some relationship.
This is what's
Or
funny.
like DNA connections
You
or
see-
whatever that thing is.
So the Jeff's on it.
Yeah, and I ordered the Ancestry.com. And do you know a Rick Morgan?
And I was like, I don't know who that is.
I know, we were
I
about-
think
Yeah,
I literally
exactly.
said- no, yeah, I was like, I literally said
But it's
that.
a crazy high percentage to show up on there.
I know.
Right?
Well, I didn't think. I was
I
just
know,
like,
like,
I don't care. Like, I was just whatever. But the name was such a unique because my wife's name's Morgan.
Ah.
So I was like, so the name kind of stuck, and then you guys kept talking. We were like, who knows? Maybe it's
Yeah,
like,
we were like,
it's like long, like, yeah, sure, whatever. And then when Dad was telling us, we were talking to we left the park,
And we had to like process together. So we left
I was
together.
just like,
I was like,
Of course.
I was like, let's go get a beer or something. And he's like, well, I need to go tell my wife.
because she was like,
Person.
she was like, well, first she told me,
What's going on? What's going on?
Well,
What's
she
going
was
on?
like, "Will you tell me right when you find out?" I'm like, "Yes," because I figured it wasn't going to be like this. And so then I was like, I cannot tell her over the phone. I can't even think.
I told my wife over the phone, which is hilarious.
I couldn't do it. I was like, my mind was too. I couldn't think. I'm like, I have to like. I needed him to be there to make sure I wasn't like saying the wrong things, because my mind was just because ADHD brain. I mean,
Yeah, I get it.
This is never going to stop, right?
Yeah,
And
it's
so-
rocket powered.
Yeah,
now.
yeah,
It's like-
exactly. Even on medication, it's like, nope, ain't gonna. It's not this.
The cork's unplugged now.
Yeah,
It's like
yeah,
coming
yeah,
out.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So we got back, and I just said to her, I'm like, yeah, this is, you know, we started telling her the whole story, and you know, and then we realized, yeah, it was weird because Casey was just talking about. We both like looked at each other, and
Well,
went,
I said
yeah.
out loud. I said, yeah, Casey literally just 2 days ago was telling us about these DNA updates and relationships, and he was talking, and then he mentioned some random guy, and Paul and I, as soon as I said it out loud,
yeah, we
looked
both looked at each other and went, holy shit. Like,
was Rick.
that, he said Rick, I was like, what?
I know.
Like, I was like,
It's too much. It's too much.
Yeah, exactly.
I know.
It's too much, man. It's too much.
It's a sitcom that no one would believe if they saw it on TV.
Yeah, it's a movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like
Yeah.
there's a okay, this is really random. Almost Famous, one of my favorite movies ever. There's a part where like the main character's in an airport and his sister walks up to him and she's working at the airport and she's like, oh my God, you're my brother, and it's like whatever. And then like, and he said he got criticized, so that never happened. He goes, that really happened to me, like in my life. Like
wow.
I was at an airport, like super depressed, and like, you know, long story. And then he's like, and his sister walks by and goes, William or Cameron, and it's like she's a stewardess at the airport. I thought it was funny, but that's exactly it. Like, but no one would believe that. But that's truth is stranger than fiction.
Yeah,
you know? I
yeah.
mean,
People
that's-
wouldn't digest it because they'd say, "Come on, what are the chances of them, you know, falling in a Sarlacc pit and getting out?" You know,
Yeah,
it's like
Well, I
it's
mean,
too
like,
stupid,
the
right?
fact you live, to me, that's the ultimate. The ultimate is the fact you actually live here, right by us, is just.
I taught my kids to ride their bikes in the parking lot of a church that our dad plastered. Like when he used to live like right up the street from it. Like he was
Really?
telling me about
Wait,
that.
I know which house that was from. Our old house that we used to live.
Yeah,
live
down
in.
there.
So I live right around the corner from there, like in 180.
Dude, I need to, I'm always. We went. I think me and Dad drove by it a couple of years ago. I wanted to see it.